This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Michael Valdivia, our honored patron and Switch Knight.
Hey everyone, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, a Nintendo Switch podcast, but the Nintendo Switch community. And we are going to be doing one of our classic Super Crunch episodes because there is a ton, just today, a ton of stuff dropped in our laps with the, the Nindie Summer Sweepstakes? Yeah. What was it called?
Summer, Nintendo
Showcase.
Switch Nindies Showcase, Summer 2017.
Yes.
It's awesome that they differentiated it with their original Nintendo Switch Showcase. And I'm honestly really excited to see more of these in the future.
Yeah, a lot of them were some surprises.
Oh, yeah.
And just a couple, like one or two real slam dunks that were for the system.
Exactly. It's exciting to see these games on a portable console like the Nintendo Switch. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about it, Casey.
Well, I have to ask, though, how are you doing? We were a little bit concerned about the whole storm situation in Texas, and I've been hearing lots of scary news. Are you high and dry where you are?
Yeah, luckily, I live in Austin, so we weren't really affected by the weather too badly. I do have a lot of friends in Houston, and we do have a community in Houston that we really would hope for the best for you guys, and we're definitely rooting for everything to turn out as best as possible over there in the Houston area.
Yeah, guys, anyone listening, who knows someone over there, we're thinking of you. Hope everything's all right over there, and hope you get settled back down and you can participate in more fun things in the near future.
Yeah, and I definitely don't want to make light of that situation since it is really grave, but to reel it into Nintendo a bit, it's great that the Nintendo Switch is actually the most portable console that you can bring. You might be able to play Nintendo Switch games while you're not quite out. So
yes, right, something to pass time by while you're trying to get things back in order. Honestly, one of my favorite podcasts, I always mention them, Watch Out for Fireballs.
Yes.
He talks about, he mentions a few times where he had a very dark point in his life in his youth where, he was pretty much homeless. His mom and him, they were just kind of staying at people's houses, but he still always brought his Super Nintendo with him. And he was that was his ultimate escape, was Final Fantasy VI at the time. And he talks about how, all this trouble, no matter what we were going through with this really dark point in my life, I just immersed myself in this world, and that is how I escaped from everything. And I kind of just coasted through that chapter by just escaping with some games for a while.
Right, exactly. And hopefully everyone, even coastal towns in Texas, I hope you guys really are safe right now and maybe escaping life by listening to this podcast and playing some Switch games.
Speaking of the future, some gaming, a couple of people have been asking me, or asking us on the Facebook group, what is the next game and when are we going to have the next Switch Cup? Do you have we settled on a winner of your vote?
Absolutely. So it does look like people are most interested in doing this on next weekend. So around the 8th of September, 8th or 9th, I'm going to pin down that specific date. It's likely to be on the 8th of September. I'll post it up on the Facebook group and put up signups very soon. But we're going to play Puyo Puyo Tetris.
Ooh, that was almost the very first tournament we ever ran here,
Absolutely.
Actually.
It kind of comes full circle because we were definitely talking about a game as the start of our competitive series. It ended up being Mario Kart 8, but I'm glad that we're finally doing this, and it's going to be a day tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I'll be putting up more details about this tournament soon, honestly, within the release of this podcast, and signups are going to be up real soon.
Yep, very cool, very cool.
Yeah.
And just talking about some games in the community, we had an interesting little discussion I want to talk on just very briefly because we have so much to dive into here.
Yeah.
There was an interesting article, and some people will debate how cool it was overall, but Edge Magazine had their top 100 games of all time. And this list composed of like literally all time, way back to like, NES games and, so on and so forth. But I guess like the headline item that sparked our discussion in the Discord and stuff was that the number one game picked was Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Switch there. And it's actually pretty amazing. The game's so recent made the top spot on their list. I mean, the next newest game on there was probably Dark Souls.
Which is number 2, and Grand Theft Auto, which is number 3.
Grand Theft Auto 5 of all the ones.
To be fair, I'm not really the biggest fan of Grand Theft Auto 5, but considering how much support it's gotten over the past years since launch, it's been re-released, and they're still holding on to millions of users for a console game or a PC non-MMO game. I think that's impressive.
It was just weird because, anytime you do these lists, they have to have some sort of weird criteria of how they order them or something. But I mean, it never really makes sense the whole way down. I mean, first off, we noticed that there was only one Final Fantasy on the entire list, and they picked number 12. So I guess that's what they're saying is the best of all the Final Fantasies.
Yeah, these types of lists are kind of a slippery slope because it's so subjective what goes where.
There was 5 Zeldas on there, and I think 4 of them got beat out by Nidhogg.
Yeah, and if you're just not a fan of Zelda games at all, then this list just does not correlate with your opinions whatsoever. So it's subjective. It's hard to justify, but sometimes it can be pretty fun to see these lists overall. It's
a good discussion starter, and like I said, it's just hard to numerate these sort of things in a certain and any kind of way. It's it's the closest thing to comparing apples and oranges. These are such different types of games. You're saying all gaming, all consoles. I mean, how do you really rate everything in that way? But it's just fun to talk about. It sparked some good conversation, and it's just really cool to see. Honestly, the one game I could even think of, I mean, we're going to probably have a best of the, 2017 in a few months when near the end of the year. It's going to be very hard to put anything ahead of Zelda Breath of the Wild as the best Switch game of 2017.
You don't think that Vroom game in the Night Sky game is going to beat Zelda, Casey?
It'll probably be there right next to Nidhogg.
Vroom in the Night Sky, number 1 2017 game. That's crazy.
We should make the troll list.
Best, top 5 best, top 5 worst. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be good. So that's something to start thinking about now. Actually, I think since we got, we're coming into the fall, so it's been about 6 months we've had the Switch, so it's been half a year now. So it's actually a pretty good mark to start looking back, just kind of evaluate half a year wise there.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, we can't waste any more time on this stuff, so let's just jump into the game time and talk about all the little things we've been dabbling with.
Okay, let's go for it.
Alright, so you got your hands on the real golden ticket this week, I believe.
I got the golden ticket. I've been playing Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Now, I
Glad to hear Amazon delivered it to you on time, or did you pick this up on your own?
I picked this up at Best Buy directly.
Okay.
The reason why I got Amazon for Sonic Mania because the collector's edition pre-order popped up.
Gotcha.
And I had to pick that up quickly. But with this, just as a caveat, I honestly haven't played that much of it. Maybe about an hour, hour and a half.
Right, well, it just came out yesterday, so...
Yes, exactly. So, digging in... It starts you off in a bit of a story mode, or a story cutscene, where there's this human girl, and she's an inventor inventing a headset that combines two things into one. Mm-hmm. So she's looking around, she's eyeing a flower and a lamp, and it combines the two together, and it forms a light flower thing. Rabbids come in, they mess things up as they're wont to do. The headset goes haywire and combines Mario and Rabbids, and the Mushroom Kingdom is now in disarray with all these Rabbids flying everywhere and causing so much havoc.
Okay. So that's how they crossed everything over.
Yeah, it's a very loose reasoning, and I don't think they really explore it so much, but that's their reason, and they're sticking to it. I found it interesting because the gameplay starts off in an isometric view, and you move around in an isometric Mushroom Kingdom world, and everything is just so colorful and pretty to look at. And there's actually quite a surprising amount of mild exploration. Mm-hmm. So you control Mario and some imposter Rabbids that look like Peach and Luigi, and you go around collecting coins and going through figuring out puzzles to find other platforms that have coins and items, and then you're going through a tutorial whenever you run into a certain area. And that triggers a cutscene, or not a cutscene, that triggers a fight scene where you do your tactics-based combat.
All right. How long did you have to play before you got into like your first little fights tutorial there?
It was probably about a 5 to 10 minute cutscene, really.
Okay. That's good.
The cutscenes themselves are really well animated. It felt like a really strong kid-oriented CGI movie or CGI short film. And it is pretty engaging, and I thought it was well animated and endearing in its own way.
All right, very cool.
I'm not that far in, so I haven't gone into boss fights or any in-depth strategy. So the gameplay-wise, I'm going to talk about that a lot later.
Yeah.
But so far, I like the experience. Though, I have to say, KC, I want to put it out there. You know those minions that are really popular with kids nowadays?
Like the ones from Despicable Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I freaking hate minions. Like, I hate them so much. They're so annoying. I hate them. Yes. They are obnoxious. They cause trouble and all that stuff, and it's just annoying, and they're everywhere. And someone pointed out to me that the Rabbids are essentially Ubisoft minions.
Okay.
And then that really colors my opinions on how Rabbids are. Because they really act and behave and talk just like those annoying minions that I hate so much.
Okay. I can see the similarities. Like, they are multiples. They all have, like, just slight variations. But they're, whereas the minions are about causing their own kind of mischief. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And they all have that weird talk that you understand what they're trying to say, more or less, but they don't have words that you can really know.
Yeah, they are almost exactly minions. You can replace the Rabbids with minions, and it wouldn't change a thing. And that just both blew my mind and made me facepalm myself through my head. So, yeah, I'm definitely while playing this game, I'm definitely going to have to get past that built-in prejudice that I have against that franchise.
Awesome.
But yeah, so far, gameplay-wise, I'm really digging it.
All right, very cool. You just reminded me of, like, do I ever tell you what I thought was the best strategy game tutorial I ever felt in any game?
No, I don't think I remember you saying that.
There was in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Very first scene. You turn on the game. The first scene is a snowball fight. And you're at school. They just, like, maybe 2 sentences happen before it's like, they introduce you to the fact that you are this character, and all the same mechanics that you're going to use later for, like, swords and magic, you're just using in terms of, like, okay, move on top of this hill and then use the throw snowball attack at this target over there. And that's all you're doing to learn the game. And it's just such a really cool way to not only give you a tutorial, but throw you into the story immediately in a really fun and kind of clever way.
Yeah.
And in a low-stakes way.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I like how it throws it in while adding a bit of a character moment reflecting that they are just children.
Yes,
playing games with each other.
Yeah, establish that there.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool though. But yeah, we will definitely. I definitely look forward to hearing all your in-depth stuff that you can get to and see how far you can get in Kingdom Battle in the week to come. But until then, I got to dive into League of Evil this week. This was the newest Ratalika Games release. This is a game it's another one of those games where I played for iPhone. It was actually a pretty popular iPhone game because it was probably one of the best adaptations of a platformer for that kind of touchscreen controls. And it actually, and that was what it was really renowned for, is that it's kind of a Meat Boy type game where there's just like, it's a grinder of challenging jumps and maneuvers to get through stages, but it has a pretty easy curve. Like, it doesn't really start the
it's not as brutal as Super Meat Boy right from the get-go.
Correct. It does get really hard as you go, but it's a little gentler slope. They start you off pretty easy, but it's a very simple premise. You're some bionic dude who is there to stop the League of Evil, who are gathering scientists to take over the world, which translates to you running through these stages, and your goal is to get to the scientist and punch his head off. Like, literally, you get to him and he punches, like, head goes flying and little it's pixel graphics, but it's pixel blood shooting out. You can turn off that level, even though it's not like huge gore. You can turn off the moderate levels, blood in the game there, in case anyone's turned off by that. No, it's pretty good. There's lots of different challenges. Like, you start off with just soldiers who will shoot a bullet at you after a second or two. Then they start throwing in like spinning pendulums with spikes. You can wall jump. You can double jump. There's lots of spike traps, eventually ninjas. Oh, there's also a briefcase on every stage. It's like an optional thing you can go grab. So there's a bunch of different achievements you can unlock. One is to get the briefcase on every stage. One is to beat every stage like really fast and get the 3 stars. Then, there's a few of those little replay. There's 140 stages, which is pretty robust. You will go through them pretty fast, but I do think that going back for some of these challenges, like kill every enemy on every stage, will give it a little replayability. But it's really not meant to be a game you're going to play forever. It's remember, it's an iPhone type game. You're going to buy this, it's going to be pretty cheap, and you're going to have a fairly good time for a finite amount of time with it.
Now, I do know the Switch version has a level editor feature. Have you been able to dig into that?
Yes, that's probably the coolest thing. I was playing around with it. It's actually pretty easy. I mean, all the controls in this game, obviously, are pretty simple. Again, it's made for touch controls. Though, the level editor is something new for the Switch version. And, it's pretty easy to, they give you all the different obstacles, and you can build it however you want. I don't know if I saw any option to share it or anything like that. I
believe you should be able to share it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's, online or local. I never made a finished stage yet, but I might do that just because it's pretty cool to try. There's a lot of different things to throw in there. Like I mentioned, all those 2 different enemies and different types of spikes and all these little challenges. And you can really put people through some torturous stuff. But no matter how torturous a stage is, it's very nice how fast it is to just, hit retry. You go right back to the beginning. No time wasted. And it's not like the only time I hate a part that kills you over and over again is when it takes you 5 minutes to get to there.
Right, exactly.
Every stage is so tight that that you'll never really hit that kind of frustration wall where it's like, all right, it takes me forever to get to this one jump that I never can learn because I only got to try it so many times. It's like, no, everything's pretty fast, and once you master something, you'll get through it pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a simple game. There's not too much to say about it other than I feel there's a missed opportunity to give you lots of different characters to play as. You can only play as that little bio dude, and it's not like he has a storyline or anything like that. So I feel like I should be unlocking, and maybe it's just the iPhone stuff in me talking, but I feel like I should be unlocking different costumes for my character to play with.
Okay, so you're saying, I guess, maybe different personality, but not necessarily different controls?
Yeah, same exact controls, just, different skins. It just feels like such an iPhone type feature that it just feels odd to me when it's missing in a game like this.
All right, yeah, that's fair, I think.
Yeah. But anyway, fun, cheap game. I mean, it's definitely worth picking up if you just want, a nice little time killer that obviously is made for short play sessions that you can pick up or drop at any moment.
Yeah, that does sound perfect for that.
Yeah, League of Evil. But you know what? Actually, I had an even harder time putting down this week.
Ooh, what is it?
That Pokken demo.
Yeah, I know. I just love that this demo exists because I've already been able to recruit some people into getting interested in the game for it.
Oh yeah? Have you been playing the multiplayer or just showing them the one player?
No, I've just been there's a lot of people out there that either are skeptical of Pokken or don't even know that Pokken exists, but they still own a Switch because of Zelda and Mario Kart.
Okay.
I've been able to direct those people to the Pokken demo. It's a free demo for people to try, but it's robust enough that it's getting people interested in the full game later this month.
Yeah. Ugh. I gotta tell you that's the biggest problem I have with it. I really want Pokken now. I
Really?
I had to stop playing this, just because I was I just want to play the full thing now. I want to up the difficulty level because, obviously the demo doesn't have the challenge cranked up to anything. So
right.
I play it, and I even purposely lose in the second matches usually just to
you can get another game in?
Yeah, just so I get at least one more match in there. They did add that, 15 game limit on the demo,
yes.
Even though I think you could just delete it and reinstall it to renew that.
Right, exactly.
But I'm just milking it for everything. But I will say, the one person I did get to play this in multiplayer, which is really nice that the demo does give you the 2-player option, it not only sold them on getting this game, it sold them on buying a Switch.
Wow, really?
Well, it was the whole package of I whipped out my Switch, I was able to play 2 players in a cafe somewhere on that screen like that, and the fact that this game just blew their mind, because they were Pokemon fans, and they were only vaguely familiar with the Switch, but seeing what it could do, and then seeing what, they took Pokemon and made this fighting game that kind of makes sense to someone like me, and I didn't have to learn, move combos or anything like that. They were just totally floored by all that stuff hitting them at once, and They were like, yeah, I guess I gotta buy a Switch now.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm for them then, and that's why I'm just so glad that Nintendo's really going all out with these demos. They're really making sure that people are able to experience these games in a bite-sized chunk before and convincing them to pick up the full game.
Yeah, so we'll obviously have more to talk about that when it gets to release, but yeah, that's on my buy list. That is on my buy list.
Score convinced you, Casey.
And then I did play some more. I had to give it more of a chance of Fate Extella, and I did discover some things that, all right, and I gave it kind of a lukewarm opinion last week, and I still have a lukewarm feeling on it. It's not a bad game. I understand at least a little bit more behind why some of the problems I had with it. I found out that it is actually a sequel game, a continuation of the story told in Fate Extra, which was a PSP game that never came to the West.
Obscure.
And the plot is I think it's pretty heavily linked to that. As I mentioned, you play someone who won the last Holy Grail War, and all the characters kind of know each other from that, and they make references to having old friendships or hatreds and rivalries, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going along with this stuff, but that's all stuff that was established in that game. And I guess in addition to that is your romance with the with your servant, with Nero.
Main character.
Yeah. So it's I have this romance that is really very heavily in there, and it just feels very weird to start a game playing a main character that is so obviously in a romance with this character. But it's I didn't see this build up, so it's really awkward for me. But if I had played another game where I had been gradually building up this relationship, it might make more sense. I might be more natural.
Right, but it's kind of off-putting how it's immediate.
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Right?
I in fact, since I don't really like the Nero character that much, that might have a little bit of a effect on it as well. Though, possible resolution, I did start unlocking. There are 3 main stories in the game, because there are 3 characters all kind of fighting it out, like 3 factions. Okay. And I did like some of the other characters better than Nero, and their stories were a little more appealing to me. So I was a little bit more into the relationships between your character and these people more than the one with Nero. So there's a little bit of that. Anyway. I will reference here that JV has just shown me some shots from the game's original Japanese art, in which the character costume is a little bit more compromising than the version in the US version that I'm playing.
Right. There is a degree of translucence there that may not be appropriate for children.
Yeah. So, but going back to the main gameplay parts of it, I haven't seen too much change in the battle. Oh, right. And the big offense that's been so far was, you remember who I loved in general, I love the characters in the Fate Zero series that I watched, right? And right. 2 of those main characters and very imposing characters were Iskander, which was, Alexander the Great, and right. Gilgamesh, right?
Yes, Gilgamesh is a big character in all of the Fate series.
All right. And, he is just a very strong personality. He has a presence. Both of them have huge presences. And whenever they are fighting, something's going down, because this must be a plot-relevant battle, because these are like the heavyweights really here.
There's definite gravitas to their presence when they're fighting.
Yes. I fought both of them, and neither of them felt like anything more than just another boss who, whose attacks have a different theme. Like, if Ryder's going to be in this game, if Alexander the Great's going to be in this game, he has to have his trademark, his chariot, I feel like. Like, that has to be something that set him apart. But he's just a dude with a weapon, with a sword that you hit, and then you block when he attacks, and then you hit, and he take him out. And the same with Gilgamesh, who he was a little harder, but it was still the same. He shows up, he hits me with some swords. He does the cool Gates of Babylon kind of thing, but with the way he attacks them. But he attacks, I block, I hit him back. There was nothing special about these people coming into the game. And I'm just like, in a game that I was already complaining about, because Hyrule Warriors, I feel like, has really changed and raised the bar for what I expect in these Musou games, right?
Right,
that
right.
They're called. I want set pieces. I want bosses that are interesting and impressive and epic. And these guys as my bosses are just falling flat and just like kind of wasting the gravitas that you mentioned that they should be having. Yeah. Anyway, 5 locations makes it very boring, because there's like, you're going to be playing those same stages a lot. 17 characters is pretty cool. They all have different attacks, and you're going to get a lot of content out of this. You can level them all up differently. You can equip them differently with different stuff and build up your bonds with them by accomplishing missions and saying things to them in chat. So if you did like this Fate setting and you are a fan, I think fans of the series are going to like this, and they might really delve into it and get a lot of content out of it. Though honestly, I've seen all the locations now, and I'm really tired of them. They're not like that special or cool, and I'm not inspired by leading armies of these generic robot people against identical armies of robot people. One of my favorite scenes in Hyrule Warriors is when you play as Linkle and you lead an army of chickens to fight against the goblins and Ganon armies. And I'm just like, that's so cool. I'm leading these like really cool and different armies of knights or chickens or other peoples against things that make sense, and it feels like a real battle. And here I just don't care about who I'm leading into battle, and it just sucks all the inspiration out of it for me.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very fun.
But Fate fans might still dig it. Yeah. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm probably going to return this to GameFly tomorrow and hope I get something better.
Okay, sure. That sounds good.
All right, let's go into the news rundown and talk about all these exciting games that we have seen today and see what things we're going to enjoy playing in the near future.
Yeah, Nindie Showcase. Let's do it.
So here we are, news rundown and the Nindie Summer Showcase. We're going to go through every game. We're going to have to be a little brief. Not that we have that much to talk about anyway, but we're going to see what got us excited and what we think should get you guys excited.
Yeah, so to start things off, they showcased Super Meat Boy Forever with a 2018 release, and I'm pretty excited for this, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, Meat Boy, obviously, it's just a huge franchise. It got that company off the ground and made them a player in the industry. The one thing that looked interesting about this that's different than the other one is that it looks like the stages are a little more longer, not as isolated stages.
Right. The original Super Meat Boy kind of had static stages that you progress through frame by frame. In this one, it seems like a more continuous, long-form stage.
Right.
Which I like. Which, with Super Meat Boy's physics, I think that would really work well.
And they said something, I'm not sure if maybe I made too much about this, or maybe I'm read into this. He said something about the levels get harder as you beat them. And when I say it like that, it just sounds like, yes, as you get past levels, you get to harder levels. But the way it sounded, the way he presented it, I thought he was saying that as you beat the stages, going over them again, there would be something harder, like they will throw more obstacles as you go through the stage as you beat that stage.
I really want them to elaborate on that, because that could mean multiple things.
Yeah.
Does that mean it procedurally gets harder as you progress through a level?
Right,
or
exactly.
Does it get harder procedurally after each time you complete a level? That's definitely an ambiguous statement, but it's a cool way to add difficulty to a game pretty organically.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're a better player, maybe things get harder, and if you stink, well, then things won't be as hard for you, maybe.
Yeah.
Shovel Knight, King of Cards, which was also announced for 2018, and this is supposed to be the final chapter of the Shovel Knight series. This one stars the King Knight, and I think this is, again, a prequel, and shows you kind of the origins of how Shovel Knight got started. Pretty cool. He has a hammer. He's very large and golden. And there's some kind of card battle minigame you play in this, too.
Yeah, I just love that Yacht Club games are continuously supporting this the Shovel Knight franchise. They really understood what people liked, and they're just sticking with all these improvements and iterations.
Mom hid my game.
Yeah, so this looks like a point-and-click puzzle type game where you're going through a cartoony little household and you're trying to find where Mom hid your little Game Boy or DS console.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. It's simple. There's a one screen. It might involve you just I see it in the, I hit this door, it opens, and I find it there. It might be inside of an alligator's mouth, and you have to find a way to grab an item that can get stuck in its mouth so you can pull it out. It looks like, little puzzles like that.
Yeah, I dig it. It's definitely, it looks like a bite-sized experience. Mm-hmm. No pun intended. But, clever idea.
Yeah,
it seems like a micro game style situation, and the graphics do remind me a bit of WarioWare. So
I gotcha. Did your mom ever do that to you? Did she ever hide your video games or anything like that? If you
of course.
Didn't do well, yeah. See,
all the time. By default.
Oh, okay. My dad would hide my Nintendo controllers from me if he wasn't happy with something, but my mom was kind of a pushover, and she would always if I just looked sad or bored, she would give them to me anyway. So.
Oh, that's nice of her.
I don't know. It's nice of her, but at the same time, she's undermining, disciplining me. Yeah, it's kids need some discipline. Anyway, that's late 2017, so yeah. Golf Story. Now, this is actually funny because I thought I might be in the very minority by how interested I was in this, but a lot of people in the community have already said this was one of their highlights from the presentation today.
I think it's really cool, Casey. The concept of this is just so unique and interesting. I want to see how this turns out and how well received it is.
Yeah, so this is the game. I think we saw it briefly in another presentation, and I kind of latched onto it then, so I kind of saw the potential here. But yeah, this is an RPG with, talking to characters, getting quests, meeting people, and a story evolves, but the main action of resolving these is through golf games and really cool locations that they happen in, so it's not like just straightforward golf. And there's also a mini golf game. There's a game with like disc golf, drone, something with drone flying. So it looks like there's a bunch of mini games in here, but they're all based around this golf theme, and just looks like a really cute world with a lot of stuff to discover and courses. I just am curious to see if it's going to have any kind of like maybe multiplayer, like I just want to play this golf game with some friends or something like that,
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see what direction they take with like gameplay. I'm thinking it might be reminiscent to Stardew Valley or Rune Factory. I feel like it's in that vein, but with golfing as the gameplay, which is interesting. Right.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. I'm very interested to see where this goes. Now, Floor Kids, I don't know if I quite understood how this game plays. What did you get out of this?
So it looked like it's Floor Kids is a rhythm game that's drawn in a bit of a pencil styling. Mm-hmm. It's hard to really understand what's going on here because they flash through little gameplay snippets, but I don't really see how the inputs necessarily work. It looks like you have to time button presses based on a specific rhythm, and how well you do that grants you additional points, and sometimes you can freestyle, and that improves your score overall. It definitely showcases more of a street style dancing, getting in a circle and dancing in a ring with friends. Situation.
It seemed to emphasize the idea of expressing yourself or having your own kind of style in the game. I don't know if that's just a factor of like which character you pick and your style of dancing is based on them, or if your freestyle move choices will come out of those kind of choices in game. Anyway, it's something different, and if it's a rhythm game, that's gonna already get a little bit of attention from people there, and it's just got that kind of cute, innocent style with these like kids just dancing in the streets.
And they really emphasize that the music is made by Kid Koala. If you guys know who that is. I don't personally know who Kid Koala is, but apparently it's a big enough deal to emphasize on their trailer.
Yeah, and that'll be holiday 2017.
Yeah, so it seems like something that I'd actually be willing to check out.
Now, Wolverblade. This is coming in September. This had I want a word to describe that animation where it kind of looks like, I don't know, flash animation maybe, where it's like the different pieces moving of like these cutout characters. It's a beat 'em up, and it's based on some real people and places from ancient Britain.
The art style actually kind of reminds me of Has-Been Heroes.
Okay, yes, it has a similar look to that. It's bigger sprites, like the characters are pretty large on the screen in this.
Right, but it is a side-scrolling beat-em-up game, so it looks like it's emphasizing a two-player co-op experience with apparently historical figures. Mm-hmm. It seems pretty interesting.
I'm going to jump ahead actually here, though, because I think another game kind of overshadowed this one for me, and it was another one of the ones that people seem to catch on to, and that's Dragon Marked for Death, which is coming out winter.
Oh, okay. So, Dragon Marked for Death.
Now, this is Inti Create's new title, and this is another side-scroller beat-em-up, but this is actually purely on a 2D plane, so there's none of that, going into the foreground or background like that brawler. Yeah, but it has 4-player co-op. These different classes, from a witch to a little, trickster ninja and warrior types like that. And it just had that really cool graphic style. It feels like it's, obvious it's from Inti Create, so it has that Blaster Masters kind of same, very polished, old school sprites kind of look to it.
Honestly, it really so heavily reminds me of Mega Man Zero, those GBA Mega Man games that came out.
Okay, yeah, right. That's actually a good analysis. They have that very well animated kind of sprites to them, and they're big.
And the fact that this style of game is co-op is actually exciting me quite a bit. You're right. I'm sorry, Wolverblade, but you might be overshadowed really quickly.
Also, what I'm curious to see, though, with 4 players on the screen at once, is this going to be like 4 players playing on one Switch, or are they going to have their own Switches? Can they stray from each other at all? Or do they all have to be within one box, I wonder?
I feel like if they're going to allow for 4-player multiplayer on the same Switch, they're going to have a main focus character, which is going to be player 1, and then you have to stay within the confines of that player's visibility.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's pretty common for that type of co-op experience, though, who knows?
That's a lot of players for 2D planes, I gotta say, but that definitely looks like there's a lot of cool stuff going on there, and yeah. Well, winter, so not too far off.
Exactly. I'm super stoked for this.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the big multiplayer kind of like thing. Then again, we have a few other multiplayer games I definitely have to mention before this night is out, so we'll see. We'll see which one appeals to you. There's got to be one of these has to appeal to somebody out there.
Exactly.
Poly Bridge was probably the most unexpected title.
Well, the thing is, okay, so Poly Bridge is one of those bridge building games where you build a bridge and you're trying to get some sort of vehicle to cross that bridge.
Yes.
Whether it's through more typical triangle formation or whether you're requiring some wacky physics that catapults the car over to the other side. This is essentially its own genre. There are so many games of this bridge building sort that I'm surprised there hasn't been a bridge building game on the Switch yet.
I'm not surprised they haven't been on here before or many consoles in general, but I am very intrigued that they are willing to experiment with these very PC style of games. Like, this is something that usually sticks solely in that realm, I feel like.
Right. Yeah, this definitely seems like a Steam meme generating or side game, but honestly, these bridge engineering games can be really addictive, and depending on the price, I might pick this up and just get engrossed in it again.
And that is holiday of 2017 that'll be out. Now, have you ever heard of Kentucky Route Zero?
Not at all. Not at all.
Neither had I. But when I even mentioned this at work, like 3 people gasped. And they were like, oh, that's coming on Switch. Oh, I don't have to get it on my computer. Apparently, this is actually kind of a hot ticket for some people on PC and Steam.
I don't know what Kentucky Route Zero is. I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is a point-and-click adventure that has been released chapter by chapter on Steam. And this version actually is going to compile that whole story that people were playing through, piece by piece, into one compilation. But it's a point-and-click adventure in a very noir kind of setting. It has a very creepy, atmospheric setting going on. And you basically play some delivery guy who is sent to, some dark, weird, mysterious edge of town place, and some sort of mystery ensues, and there's some mysterious road that goes through, like, the middle of a hill or something. I don't know. It sounds like it's supposed to be very dark and creepy, and like I said, it's a point-and-click adventure, which is something that I think we're going to see more of on the Switch, actually.
Yeah, the aesthetic of this game from a simple, quick impression, it kind of reminds me of Limbo.
It has a Limbo kind of feel to it, yeah, because it's very shadowy, right?
Right. It's there's a lot of black spaces and white space, and the feel to it is a bit darker.
Kentucky Route Zero TV edition will be coming out early 2018. I was also excited to see some more about Earth Atlantis in this presentation, which is coming out fall. We've already gotten a few glimpses of this before, but this is that weird wireframe, kind of looks like an old school map art style with lots of browns, and it has a cool, unique look to it. But
the aesthetic is really what sells it.
Yes. Other than that is a shoot 'em up in an underwater, like kind of a post-global warming world, I guess, with lots of giant sea creatures and monsters, and your submarine-y ship shooting all kinds of power-up weapons at them and stuff. And from what I've heard, they've described it as a Monster Hunter type game where you have to go out into certain places and hunt down a specific boss monster to fight.
Yeah, that seems pretty cool. It's something I'm gonna check out because combining Monster Hunter philosophies with a shmup seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah, I would like to see if there's any kind of customization in that ship. Again, we didn't get to, all we got to really see in this was a few more of the fights and the things and what you get to do in the game. So it was nothing new information. It was just more details on the information that we had seen before.
Right, exactly. Now, the next game that we're talking about is called Next Up Hero. This is actually a pretty interesting concept, Casey, and I believe it's been out on the PC and it's making its Switch release early 2018. So it is an isometric action game where you're taking control of a hero and going through different stages and trying to kill enemies. Now, the caveat to this is that it is a community-driven online action game where everyone essentially dies. But once one of your heroes dies, an echo is left behind for someone else to come and revive as an AI companion later. Which is a pretty interesting concept. That means that you have your character, and when this character dies, that character is going to be someone else's companion later. It seems kind of so cool.
That's kind of like almost like a Dark Souls-y element in a more cute form.
Yeah, this is definitely cutesy. It reminds me of Ragnarok Online, if you remember that.
Oh yeah.
it has that sort of control and perspective, though it has a bit more of a modern colorization and it's not quite as pixelated.
Yeah, I think it's a cool concept. I like the idea of, recruiting your friends, ghosts, and the 9 different hero classes that you can play as. And it seems like it's just going to have its own natural replayability from you going out, always building up your forces. And that is what's going to help you steamroll and go further than last time. And I like games that make losing part of the game. You
Right.
know you cannot go forever, so you're just like, I died, all right, let's see what I can do my next run.
Right, and apparently you can choose from 9 heroes and customize them with different weapons. It seems like there are a lot of customizability options, so your character can be tailored as you see fit.
And it has cool. And it has the Joy-Con co-op modes for 2 players on the same Switch, which is, again, a lot of these co-op games, a lot of, cool, fun options for people who want to team up.
Yes, and honestly, I'm very excited for this because AAA games generally don't have that much local co-op support. So a lot of these indie games are really filling that gameplay space for people.
Yeah, they're going above and beyond, honestly. That cannot be easy for a indie company to pull off.
Yes, for sure.
Then again, maybe that's just part of that Nintendo online service structure that's making it easier for them, and that's it might be part of the benefit for us having this as a paid service. We can think of it like that. We're paying to have these games all be able to have this online connectivity.
Yes, and even that local co-op is definitely being supported by these games.
True.
Which I absolutely salute and encourage.
That's early 2018, and coming up very soon, actually, SteamWorld Dig 2. Finally, they showed off that it's coming September 21st. We got a few more looks at the gameplay of this. This is something I thought was actually going to come out a lot sooner, because we saw this
a while back, actually.
Yeah, this was featured in the first Nindie Showcase. It was the premiere thing they showed off.
Right, so at least in this trailer, they went into more detail regarding what the premise is, and they showed a lot more varied gameplay than last time, which is definitely exciting to see. I know SteamWorld Dig has quite a big fan base, and seeing a sequel here on the Switch can excite them quite a bit.
Yeah. Mulaka. Now, this is a game I had not seen before, and this is slated for early 2018. And this is it's based on North Mexican kind of folklore, and you play this warrior guy in a world filled with, lots of these natural creatures, like things that look like living, like giant trees and mountains or other monsters. And he has this very tribal warrior feel, and he runs funny and I remember in the animations, he kind of like animates funny, but it's part of the style. But the real shtick is that he unlocks the ability to morph into different animals. And these are used both in combat and in kind of a puzzle-solving sense, it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And this game kind of reminds me of Horizon Zero Dawn. Now, this isn't necessarily an open world, massive exploration game like that, but having to fight different enemies with a little bit of a tribal element to it seems like it's in that route a bit.
Okay. It definitely feels like a Zelda-like kind of game. Like there's going to be a lot of exploration and probably zones that are locked out until you can like turn into an eagle and reach the top of this mountain and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and actually the art style itself has a bit of a rhyme feel to it, if you remember that game.
Yes. It's very polygonal.
Yes. So this next game is called Yono and the Celestial Elephant. This is an isometric kind of puzzle platformy game, and I just have to say, it's totes adorable.
It is. It has this really, like, all the characters have this, like, chunky, they look like kids' toys, kind of.
Yeah. It does. It does look like a really cute kid's toy. The main character is...
You are in a little elephant. I think you are Yono. And, you have all sorts of little elephant powers.
Like being able to shoot water from your spout or fire from your spout and ramming into things, moving things around, and exploring an isometric puzzle area with whatever abilities a cute little elephant can have.
Yeah, and he looks like he could like suck things up and like spit them out, and it seems, and he looks like he's trying to free these weird constellation kind of from these flowers. It looks really nice and pretty when I saw it in the trailer there, and it could be pretty fun. And if people can stomach that kind of cuteness in that game, or maybe it's something that a younger player might be extra attracted to. I think this will be fine for everyone. I just think that some people will look at games like Mulaka more closely if they're not into this kind of cute setting. But it is really cute.
Yeah, it is. It's quite cute. Now, we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah. And that is coming out October 12th.
Yeah, so pretty soon.
So what did you think of Battle Chef Brigade? This is actually made by some of the people behind Adult Swim games, so it's kind of interesting jump over for them.
We were talking about this in the Discord chat. Isn't it kind of surreal that Adult Swim Games is an actual kind of respectable game development studio now?
It is. Yeah, they started out as such jokey throwaway games.
Yeah, with Robot Unicorn Attack, that type of stuff. Yeah, but now they're really making something that seems to have a bit more depth than the usual Flash game. Now, I'm looking at this game, and it is very anime. So, the premise is that you're in some sort of medieval cooking competition, and you have to go around in a platform fighting style, capturing creatures and getting their meat to fill in for to cook in these chef battles. Now, the chef battles themselves have a bit of a puzzle. What is it called?
Like a match 3 game.
So it's a blend between these two gameplay styles, and it's definitely a pretty quirky take on this whole genre, or these two genres even.
So we have two fairly interesting chef games released in the same 6-month or year period for the Switch.
Yeah, and they don't play differently at all. Or they don't play similarly at all.
Yeah.
So, sure. Yeah, so I do have to say that the animations of the side-scrolling action seems very choppy. That might be intentional, but it can be a little off-putting since it does almost look and feel like a classic Flash game.
I was going to say, actually, the same thing. The animation and the graphic style on its own kind of makes me feel like this is something that I'm not going to be looking at too closely. But the gameplay looks interesting on its own, but I might have a hurdle getting into its aesthetics.
Yeah, I think the concept is honestly great. It's definitely anime. It reminds me of one of those shonen anime where people get powers, kill monsters, and then fight each other through shaft battles.
Yeah. That's coming holiday 2017. And coming also this winter, we have... Now, this is another cool concept, but this is Morphe's Law.
Yeah, that's a hilarious name.
Yes. And this is a shooter game. It is a 4v4, PvP style game. And it has an interesting kind of twist on it. It does its own little kind of like, all right, we're going to take these shooter games, kind of like Splatoon did, and have our own special gimmick to make it our own and not make it like others. And in this case, you are stealing mass from your enemies as you shoot them. So whatever part of their body you hit shrinks on them and gets bigger on you. So if you shoot guys in the head, their head gets smaller.
Yes, and your head gets bigger. And if you shoot them in the leg, their leg gets bigger. That gets smaller, and your leg gets bigger. And that kind of plays itself out in a balancing mechanism. Since obviously, the better you do, the more you hit other people, the smaller they get, and the bigger you get. However, the bigger you get, the bigger of a target you become for the smaller people to come in and maneuver around. So that's a definitely interesting approach to a third-person 3D shooter.
Yes, and even though the end of a match is determined by who has the most mass on their side at the end of the round, but yeah, that is a very distinct balancing act. And not only is it that aspect of, I'm a smaller target and you're now this giant target because you're so good, there's just places the small characters can go. Like you can run inside buildings, whereas the other guy's literally like a Godzilla size and can't do anything like that. And there's pathways that you can only fit into when you're tiny.
Right, and there's different abilities that adapt with how your body changes, and depending on the weird contortions and shape of your body, it manipulates the strategy you have to take. And it's kind of interesting because I saw someone reference that this reminds them of Attack on Titan in a way.
I didn't get that feel. It did. I just thought it looked like luchador, like SWAT teams.
Yeah, I think people reference just the fact that they're small little things fighting a big hulking mass of a creature.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's definitely kind of a fun concept. Though I'll say the people aren't sure if this is going to be a game that people are going to like really play for a long time. Is it it's going to be a cool gimmick and maybe we'll have fun? If it's a cheap game that we play hardcore for a couple of weeks, even, that might be fine. But and we'll see. I mean, maybe there'll be a community that sprouts up around it. Who knows?
If this was developed by a AAA title, or by a AAA dev company, I can see that this might have legs. But since it's an indie company, we're not 100% sure how much support this is going to get in the long run.
Right. And this one, I just have fun saying this name. Sausage Sports Club. It's coming fall.
Sausage Sports Club. It's coming fall 2017, and it's kind of hard to understand the gameplay of this thing.
This is just a mini-game compilation with a variety of different sports games that are made for up to 4 players to, play simultaneously. It's kind of a little party game feel with little animal creatures and these floppy heads they have.
Actually, it looks like it might support 8-player local multiplayer, so that's quite a number of players for a local experience.
Interesting. And it's also interesting that this is not the only sports minigame compilation that I have to talk about today, but that is in fall of 2017. Okay, and then we have Light Fingers.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
Yeah, this is weird. So this is a turn-based multiplayer game, and I really didn't get a strong grasp of what the gameplay is like in this, with players taking turns exploring this kind of map, and with the procedurally generated boards. And I don't know, I really didn't quite grasp what you're doing in it. It kind of looked like a board game of exploration and traps that you're trying to avoid.
Right. You take cards, you choose cards, and then move through a board in certain ways, and you change your perspectives. It's hard to say what it is from the small snippets of gameplay, but I am pretty intrigued with how might turn out.
Yeah, we'll see more, but this is probably the more cryptic of them. Nine Parchments was another game, though, another of these.
Ooh.
They called this a blast 'em up instead of a beat 'em up, so this is a kind of a I don't know, like almost like Gauntlet style game where your characters are shooting stuff, but you're all these different wizardy characters.
Yeah, as soon as I saw this, I definitely understood that it was like Gauntlet Legends or a Gauntlet game.
Right.
And I'm clamoring for this style of game for the Switch, and it is confirmed to have online multiplayer, so this might be something that we can play with a co-op experience, Casey.
Very cool, yeah, and it does have a very cool style to it. With everyone's these different wizards, you get different equipment, hats and staves, and you can all have different types of attacks. And another 4-player co-op game with that people are gonna draw to. There's going to be a lot of options for these, though. I feel like this is actually becoming quite a tight genre for competition. Are these all going to be successful, or is only one or two of them going to rise to the top and be the ones that everyone plays?
Yeah. Though, ultimately, more choice is never a bad thing for the Switch. We just need to figure out which one everyone's going to gravitate towards. So
maybe if they come out in a separate enough time frame, they might still be good. Because these games might not take that long to beat, so hopefully...
We can move on from one to another.
Right, exactly. And you know what? That might be perfect. That might be perfect. It's like, all right, we just beat this 4-player game. Hey, it's the same 4 of us. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, you could do a SwitchCast co-op club.
Oh, I like that name.
Yeah, I do too. I just came up with it.
Coined. That's going to be used. SwitchCast co-op club. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Great.
All right, what else do we love?
Travis touchdown.
That's right. The big coup de grace for the presentation. No More Heroes, Travis strikes again.
I'm surprised that this was even announced here, Casey. I didn't think that they would treat it this way as an indie game.
Yeah, no, it doesn't exude that kind of feeling, and No More Heroes itself with Suda51, that really probably wouldn't qualify, but it is an indie in a very unique way in that, so the game story is about the father of one of the characters that you killed in the previous game, which was Batgirl, and she was just one of the assassins you killed. Her father comes for vengeance. He breaks into Travis's trailer, and before they fight, they get sucked into his video game console, the Phantom game console, and there are 6 games in that you will have to beat. And those games that you go into are all designed with the assistance of actual Nindie game developers.
That's such a cool concept, honestly, Casey. I'm really digging that they're using this No More Heroes franchise with such a weird and interesting twist.
Yeah, no, that's we only saw a cinematic trailer, so we have no idea how this concept is going to actually play out. Is it going to be like playing 6 completely different games? Are they all going to be third-person fighting games with just different kind of elements added to it? It could be anything, and that's totally Suda51 style, is just make you wonder.
Yeah, Suda51's excellent at being really quirky, weird, and out there, like very out there. And I have so many questions about how this game is going to turn out. Is it even going to be only just those 6 indie games that are compiled into this game? Or will there be third-person action elements, then you transition into the indie game that you're supposed to play and beat?
I see.
How is that going to work?
Is the meta game going to be the 7th game, right? Is it going to be No More Heroes is the game you're playing, but then there's these 6 other games that you also have to play in addition to No More Heroes?
Right, exactly. Who knows? With Suda51, anything can happen. And I do have to say that the No More Heroes franchise is very adult. There's a lot of violence, blood, and reference to lewd material, so keep that in mind if that's something you're interested in exploring further.
Yep.
But I've always been very impressed with how off the wall and quirky Suda51's games are.
No, yeah. Even if you don't like them, you have to pay attention because he just does such interesting, crazy in things to video games, and they usually are some ways deconstructions of video games as a whole in unique ways. And this is a Nintendo exclusive, which is a really big coup for the system, in that it's a pretty major title that will be only for us, and it will probably get some people interested in the console that might not have been before.
Exactly.
That is coming 2018. We have no more specific date than that, but I'm sure we're going to be teased out with a few more times.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and that is all the games we saw in this presentation, but that is not all the games that we have heard about. I'm just going to run down the pipe here since it kind of fits now. We also saw a trailer this week for Runner 3, which is announced for 2018, and we got to see a little bit more of the gameplay of that and how it changes and transforms between the really fancy 3D version of it to other art styles it looked like at times, where it almost had like a anime kind of thing going on. And but that's the straightforward rhythmy runner game. Gear Club Unlimited is coming out December 1st. This is more of a racing simulation style game. Cars, customize them, race them, that kind of formula. Super Beat Sports. Now, this is the game I actually got confused with the Sausage Sports Club before.
Right.
This is a little bit more of a rhythm-based one, though.
Okay, because it's from Harmonix, so that's their bread and butter.
Right. And we didn't see any gameplay in this trailer, but it does have a really cute kind of anime. I want to say almost like Japanese toys.
Cartoony.
Yeah. Very Japanese cartoony kind of look to it. But there are multiple rhythm-based sports games. There's Wacky Bat, where you time your swings in rhythm, knock out the aliens one by one. There's some alien invasion going on. Buddy Ball, Rhythm Racket, and there's even a multiplayer one or two of them that are, add some variety there. So that's coming up. Moon Hunters, another co-op action game. This is the one I got to play at PAX East before I even, knew what a Nintendo Switch was actually at the time. And,
wow.
No. I think PAX East was just after Switch came out, I think.
Yeah.
But I did not know this was coming out on Switch. It might not have even been planned for certain at this time. But I did see it. It was a game that interested me, and I tried it out. This is, again, it is a co-op action beat-em-up game, a little more of a fantasy kind of setting, but this shtick with this one is that you are creating a story as you play through it, and that the characters you talk to, the things that your party does, or where you go to fight, it informs the narrative of how the people know you, and a kind of a legend creeps up, and you will beat the game in a short time period, but when you beat it, I remember something about your heroes becoming constellations, and then you're supposed to play it again, and now the story that you create is going to be different, and the stuff that your heroes did before have affected and changed the world in some ways.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting concept, and we'll see how it plays out on the Switch.
Yep. Red Game Without a Great Name and Green Game Time Swapper. These are two games that have been out before, but they're coming to the Switch. They have a similar theme. You're this controlling a little mechanical bird, and in the Red Game, you are teleporting it. You just kind of swipe on the screen, and the bird's just flying on a certain path, but there's all sorts of obstacles. You're going to die 100 times, but when you draw a line, he'll teleport to a different place, and you got to use that teleportation to dodge problems. And in the green one, it's the same concept, bird flying, and you have to keep him from dying, but you do it by altering time and objects in the background that affect his flight path and keep him. So it's two separate games, but the same kind of theme, and those are announced for the Switch, and they're supposed to be coming in a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, coming very soon.
And finally, we heard that Guardians of the Galaxy as well as Batman are both getting Telltale games in the near future, as well as possibly a Minecraft Season 2. So, lots of options for the Telltale game fans.
Yes, very cool.
All right, actual news bits, not related to new games necessarily.
So there's a day one update for Mario and Rabbids. It generally just has like overall game stability, audio, UI, and localization improvements. It allows for skill tree resets and just a few tidbits here and there that would improve the overall quality of life for the game.
Yes, it snuck in an extra cinematic after you complete the main adventure, as well as when you do 100% completion. So I guess kind of like a bonus cinematic for doing everything.
Yeah, so nothing too big, nothing you have to pay for, but yeah, just overall improvements to the game.
Yeah, might be worth just making sure that you download that, since if you just got it, make sure you get that in there to keep it stable.
Okay, now in the news, we also found out that Splatoon actually has built-in voice chat, but it's only available in LAN play.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I get the impression that this was not an intended feature for people to find.
Yeah, because if it's LAN play, you're nearby and you should be able to just talk to each other.
Yeah.
But I guess in a competitive sense, they want to have that built-in voice chat in case there isn't an internet, there isn't internet accessibility in the area to compete in.
Yeah, and also the way you activate it is when you enter the shoal lobby, you have to hold down the left thumbstick and L and R. It's almost like a hidden kind of, code almost to get it to work. And again, it's LAN play, so it does mean that you could be like all over. Let's say you're like in a mall and you're all in different places, but as long as you're all connected to like that same Wi-Fi, you could still chat with each other. So I guess it has its uses in noisy places.
Well, I'm assuming it's also for maybe local tournament play, so that you'd be able to communicate with your teammates in a local setting without needing a internet connection. Maybe.
It also sounds like it's not that good according to reports so far, so...
Yeah. Oh, well.
Oh. And the sloshing machine, is this a weapon you were familiar with from the previous Splatoon?
No, I don't think I've played with this one.
Okay, well, this was added this weekend as well. So the sloshing machine launches a small mortar-like glob that is trailed by a vortex of ink, and it leaves a path of ink where it travels and bursts on landing. So it's more like launching kind of like a grenade. That's what it kind of sounds like.
Right, which is pretty cool. It reminds me of a blaster a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but maybe using slosher-based mechanics and shooting speeds. So it's a cool direction to take for the slosher. Definitely interesting. Don't forget, guys, there is a Splatfest this coming week. It's invisibility versus flight. Pick your team, pick your fighters, and have at it, everyone.
Yeah.
I want to see how messy this gets compared to
right.
Compared to last Splatfest.
Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to be... I want to get more data on that suspicion we had, or that rumor that the less popular team has an advantage. So I'd like to get some more data and see how that works out here. But the real thing is get those snails. Those are the best currency. They really let you upgrade your equipment in cool ways. So don't miss out on those. That's the main thing.
For sure.
If you haven't noticed, Tips from the Wild is one of those things in your news feed on the Switch, and the latest of the gifts was made available, and if you go and load the game through that news bit, you're going to get a treasure chest at your feet when you start up, and it's going to have a random boomerang-y weapon of one of the options there. So, I don't know, I always was fond of those. I like the fact that they're melee, but you can throw them as a reusable arrow, basically, including the old school boomerang. I haven't actually seen the boomerang in this game yet.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad that they're bringing this in as a helping hand.
Yeah, and you can always just reload it if you break the weapon. It's a random one, but you can just reload this thing and get a new treasure chest after you break it.
For sure. Now, Fire Emblem Warriors is getting an NA release date, October 20th. And they're also getting a special edition that we mentioned last week.
Yes.
I know as soon as Amazon had it up for pre-order, I immediately snatched it up.
Very cool.
So I'm getting one for sure. Now, going into a little bit more detail about the gameplay, apparently there's going to be an option for you to choose whether you want 720p 60 frames per second or 1080p 30 frames per second. So if you prioritize frame rate over resolution, you can choose one or the other option, which I wish more games allowed for on console.
Yeah, that's true. It's a nice, choice. It doesn't force it upon you to like, I really wish, I don't really care about that graphic fidelity as much. I'd rather the game just be smoother. So now you can, pick, maybe you don't care about the frames per second, or you just don't notice the difference and you just want the big shiny graphics on the screen.
They've also been revealed that the game will allow you to switch from classic to casual mode. So there is permadeath in this game, and if you switch to casual mode, you can remove that permadeath.
Yeah, very interesting. And yeah, that we've now learned that little factoid of the game itself, that there is that permadeath feature to it.
However, apparently you're pretty much set. If you go from classic to casual, you cannot go back to classic.
Right.
It's not possible to switch from casual to classic, so you really need to be dedicated to what mode you're going for.
Yeah, like you could start out on classic and just be like, all right, and then like hit a wall where you're like, you know what, I'm done with this, and switch back to casual. So yeah, that is a one-way switch.
I feel like they did that so that if someone that you care about dies, you can't just temporarily go to casual to get them back.
Yeah, right. And finally, Voids is a new update this week with 12 more songs to download there. And always good. I'm always happy for new options to be added. Every time they have one of these, I load that game right back up and I try some of them out, and it just reminds me this game exists on my phone, on my Switch. Gets me to play a few more times, and I'm happy. And it's my go-to game when I send a game back to GameFly. Like every time I'm waiting for my next game to come back in, Voice gets back on my Switch.
Yeah, it's great that it's a digital game that you can just open up and play here and there while waiting. Very cool.
Very cool. All right, so the new releases for this week out now, we have Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, Shantae Pirate Queen's Quest, League of Eagle, Redout, Azure Striker Gunvolt Striker Pack, and I will note that the physical release of that is actually coming this fall, so you can get this digital one, or you can wait if you like the physical one instead.
Yeah, next week, it's on September 5th, LEGO Worlds is releasing, so the LEGO Minecraft game. Toho Kobuto 5 Burst Battle coming out soon on September 5th too, and RBI Baseball 17. On September 7th, More Fights and The Bridge are coming out too.
Yes. And I'm not going to transition to the Community Pulse. I'm just going to give some overview because we didn't have time to really read a lot of your comments, but I just thought we might run off one or two, or just kind of give the general emotions. We had a lot of emails, people just listing what games they were most excited about in the Twitter and on the Facebook group.
They got so emotional, baby.
Yes.
Every time they think of Nintendo.
I mean, obviously, it seems like the vast majority of people were really impressed by seeing No More Heroes on there and the weird direction that it's going. So that was kind of the hot one that a lot of people were mentioning.
Yeah, so it looks like people are very interested in Shovel Knight, as expected. Golf Story was a kind of a surprise hit amongst our community. And Nine Parchments. That's also one that people are looking to get into. I think these types of co-op games are really thriving within our community just because we have a built-in group of friends that we can all play with.
Yeah, I think Nine Parchments and that Dragon one are going to be the co-op fighting games that are going to be the most vied over. Though since Nine Parchments is 3D and the Dragon one by Inti Creates is 2D, I feel like they'll both find a pretty good home amongst people. And again, maybe they'll all be sparsely placed that we could just play all of them over time.
Right.
All right, so we're just going to read a couple of these here. A lot of people just listed the games that they were most excited for, but a couple people left some specific comments.
Right, so here's one from Lawson Culver. He said, "The Morphes looks like an interesting take on PvP, but I'm unsure if I would play it in long term." Yeah, that's definitely something that we mentioned previously. I feel like, depending on the price tag, the Morphes would probably be something I'd want to pick up and play with you guys. But, yeah, with the expectation that it's not something that we might play on the long term.
Yeah, long term usually requires a little more support and, updates. It depends, though, on how many maps and that kind of stuff. So the gameplay has got our interest. It really will determine on how it's supported and how much content is in there for long term play. Switchboard wrote, Golf Story was the best, and it's not even close. That's funny. Like, it's not even just, like, again, Golf Story, the dark horse that came and, like, wowed so many people and just, like, took over the comments. Really just, I'm digging it. I'm just digging how excited people are for this game.
You know what? I feel like with a game like Stardew Valley really taking off, and classic games like Harvest Moon, I think that genre is really getting a resurgence in popularity, and I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see more indie games in that vein, exploring different elements of gameplay to fuse with that community building element. So Aldrin Cornejo said, I really dig the style of Floor Kids. And if it plays anything like Bust-A-Groove, Bust-A-Move in Japan, from PlayStation, I'm so in. Now, I actually didn't put that Bust-A-Groove connection, but that would be so much fun if it played like that. Have you heard of Bust-A-Groove?
No, I'm thinking of the one with the little bubble characters. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know this one.
So it's a dancing style game where you press the PlayStation buttons in a direction in a certain beat, and then that's lets you keep dancing, and you have to do that better than your opponent. So I don't know if it's going to be exactly similar, but I'm way open to rhythm games, and the style is pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah. Benjamin Levell, he wrote, he had 2 comments in here that I liked. First, it's absolutely crazy how well Yacht Club is supporting Shovel Knight. I can't wait for the latest add-on. That would probably top my list if it wasn't for Golf Story. So happy that hits in September. And he also closed out his comment. All in all, I'm so happy that the Switch is taken over for the Vita in the indie department. Now we need some of those crazy JRPGs and we'll be set. That's been my sentiment. I've really been feeling that for a while, that it has been picking up for the Vita. And a lot of these, so many of those games that were on there were just obscure games that found a home there. They were presented really well and made that console worth it for me. But now that that's, really kind of gone by the wayside, those people have found their way to the Switch, and it's a great home for them. And I'm glad that I'm on there, and I'm just waiting for some of those good visual novels to come out still.
Right. The Switch is the perfect platform for indie games to thrive. And I think that is why Nintendo's really pushing for this Nindie movement to get even more popular. It's a 1-2 punch for these indie developers. It's a home console and a portable console that only really requires the development team to work on one version of their game. And that's such a boon to these indie devs who might have small teams. So really, really great job. I'm excited to see more indie games on the Switch.
But yeah, that is everything we got for this week.
Oof, that was quite a bit, wasn't it?
It was a lot to swallow. It was a lot. But thank you all for participating and everyone who is listening to this show. I really appreciate it. And if you appreciate what we do and you'd like to show your way to support us, I highly encourage you to just check out and explore patreon.com/theswitchcast. It's our place where you can donate and give a few bucks a month to the show and help us do all this and put in the time and effort and get the games and other stuff that we use to make this show possible. Also, review us on Apple Podcast app or wherever you listen. We're close to 100 reviews. I want to hit 100 reviews by next week, guys. If you want to make my dream come true, and if you're listening to this now and you haven't left us a review, please go now and just kind of make that push. We're at like 92 or 93 right now. I'd love to hit 100 reviews. Be honest, but give us 5 stars. Discord chat is there too. We have a link to join that. That's a lot of people have been joining last week, so everyone will tell you they would love to see a new face. And you can email us, letter K, letter C at theswitchcast.com, and this guy over here is the letter J followed by the letter V at theswitchcast.com.
Yes, so we also have a Twitter you guys can check out, so it's at the SwitchCast. You can follow us for updates, musings, all that stuff. We have an Instagram, the SwitchCast as well. We have a Facebook group. That's where we post all of our event listings and we still have quite a bit of a huge community booming and being really friendly there as well. We have the SwitchCast friends list, which we will link in the show notes if you want friends to play with. And thank you, HeatleyBros, for the theme music. And until next time,
switch it up!